This is one of the best preserved old towns in Austria. Here they have the most important historical weapon collection in the world. Many amazing palaces, churches, and inspiring modern architecture. And despite all this, you've probably never even heard of this place. This is Graz, capital city of Austrian region of Styria and second largest city in Austria. Hi guys, my name is Rok and I spent last 9 years traveling around Europe as a tour guide, and I can't wait to show you things to do in Graz, Austria. Above the old town and the river Mur rises this hill that offers the best view of Graz. It is called the Castle Hill, as for almost 1000 years castles stood on its top. They were invincible, as no foreign army ever conquered this hill. Even the name of the city, Graz, originates from Slavic word for a small castle. But in the mid-16th century, a new mighty fortress was constructed. When in the 1800s Napoleon conquered the rest of Europe, his army also came to Graz but failed to conquer this fortress. Unfortunately, Graz was part of the Habsburg Empire that was later defeated by Napoleon. After the victory, Napoleon ordered demolition of Graz fortress. But somehow, few parts managed to survive, as citizens of Graz paid a huge ransom to the French in order to preserve the clock tower and this small part of the fortress. To get up here, you can walk 260 stairs leading from the old town. If you don't like walking, you can go into the tunnel right next to the steps. The tunnel under the Castle Hill was built as an air raid shelter during the World War II and houses a lift that takes you to the top. Another option is a ride with Schlossberg funicular railway that has been running since 1894. This clock tower is a beloved landmark of Graz. It is known as the Uhrturm, and it is one of the main reasons why citizens of Graz paid huge ransom to the French, as they really wanted to keep it. The clock tower got its current shape in the mid-16th century when the last fortress was reconstructed. It has 3 bells hanging on the outside. One of them is the oldest bell of Graz from the 1300s that strikes the hours. Second bell is from the 1400s and was ringing during executions. And the third bell is a fire bell from the 1600s. And inside the tower is another bell, the heaviest bell of Graz. At the corners of the tower you can spot coats of arms, formally decorating gates and walls of the Schlossberg fortress. Clock face of the tower often confuses people, as its hour hand is longer than a minute hand. You see, originally the clock only showed hours, and the hour hand was as big as possible to be seen from a distance. As the minute hand was added later, it simply couldn't be any longer, so it was made shorter. Besides old landmarks, Graz is also famous for its modern architecture. This is one of them, an artificial floating island made from glass and steel in the middle of the Mur River. It links 2 banks of the river and creates a space between the river and the city. It was commissioned as part of the city's role as capital of culture in 2003. The island has an amphitheater, a cafe, and a playground. Thanks to its illumination, the island is also impressive at night. At exactly 11 a.m., 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. you can enjoy a show made by 1800s Glockenspiel clock. The arcaded windows in the gable open to show a dancing couple in traditional Styrian costumes, accompanied by 3 melodies. At the end, the golden rooster on the top flaps his wings. Melodies are changed 5 times a year. Glockenspiel was commissioned by a successful businessman and spirits producer, Gottfried Maurer. On his journeys to North Germany and Belgium, the businessman got to know carillons and had one installed in his house in Graz. In his testament, he left the carillon to the city of Graz under the condition that it remains to be maintained. Despite the fact that the fortress on the Castle Hill was demolished by Napoleon, Graz still has its castle. In the old town stands a castle from the 1400s known as the Burg. This castle is a reminder of a days when Graz was ruled by the Emperor Frederick III, who became one of the most powerful rulers on the planet as the Holy Roman Emperor. Frederick III built this residence together with the cathedral right next to it. The Burg is famous for its double spiral staircase. Two flights of staircases are running in the opposite directions, joined for some step on each floor and separate again. This architectural Gothic masterpiece of 1499 is considered as a symbol of eternity, and people of Graz call it the Stairs of Reconciliation. If you go separate ways, you will reunite. The castle is only partially open to the public as it houses a seat of regional government. Only the courtyards and the double spiral staircase can be visited. Right next to the castle is the cathedral, also built in the 1400s. This late Gothic style church was refurbished in Baroque style by the Jesuits, who owned it for nearly 200 years. The exterior of the cathedral looks very moderate, but originally it was covered in frescoes. Today only one fresco has been preserved, titled God's Plagues, that can be found on the southern facade, and it is protected by the glass wall. Inside you can marvel at its ornate high altar, pulpit and frescoes. Cathedral is also famous for its impressive organ and two reliquaries on either side of the chancel entrance. These two mid-15th century chests were originally bridal chests, and Jesuits used them as containers for the bones of Christian martyrs. Graz Cathedral is also used as a venue for the concerts, and it's open daily and there is no entry fee. Right next to the cathedral is a huge and beautiful 17th century mausoleum housing the body of Emperor Ferdinand II, another Holy Roman Emperor from the 1600s. Visit of the mausoleum is also free of charge. This spectacular building is known as Kunsthaus and houses the contemporary art gallery. It floats like a mysterious blue balloon between the roofs of the historic city center and was named a friendly alien by its architects. It was built as part of the program for the 2003 European Capital of Culture and has immediately become a new architectural landmark in Graz. It has a unique shape and striking color, and in the evening it communicates with its urban surroundings through its media facade. Daylight enters the gallery through its nozzles on the top. One of the nozzles is pointed directly to the clock tower, the traditional landmark of Graz, to bring it into the Kunsthaus. The transparent base of the building houses a restaurant and a media lounge. Moving Belt draws visitors into interior, which on its two floors offers different kinds of exhibitions and art of the past 4 decades. Kunsthaus is open every day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This beautiful main pedestrian street connects the main square known as Hauptplatz and Jakominplatz Square. Two tram lines split the pedestrian street that is lined with magnificent old palaces full of nice shops. But this old palace houses the biggest and most important historical weapon collection in the world. You see, between the 15th and the 18th centuries, Graz was in the middle of a very turbulent times. The region experienced continuous armed raids and military conflicts with Hungarian rebels and the Ottoman Empire. That is why in the 1600s this building was purposely built as a regional armory. As armed conflicts faded during the 18th century, the armory became less important. But instead of shutting it down, Graz Armory was preserved, and in the 19th century it became one of the largest preserved historic armories in the world. The armory has more than 32,000 objects arranged on 4 floors, and it's a spectacular place to visit. Armory is open from Tuesday to Sunday and on public holidays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is one of the most impressive palaces in Austria and is part of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. It was built as a residence for Imperial Governor Hans Ulrich von Eggenberg in the 1600s. The palace is set within a beautiful park and was built as a symbolic representation of the universe. The building represents a precisely calculated cosmos. 365 windows, 31 rooms on each floor, 24 staterooms with 52 doors, 4 corner towers, all allusions to time, to seasons, to weeks, days, hours and minutes. The cycle of 24 stateroom with precious original interiors, historical furniture and over 500 ceiling paintings represents historical interior that can't be matched anywhere else on the planet. At the center is the splendid planetary room that is also famous for its astronomical symbolism. Staterooms can be visited only as part of a guided tour from Tuesday to Sunday and on public holidays every full hour from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. While you wait for your tour, you can visit other parts of the palace where you'll find exhibitions, coin collection, Gothic chapel and an art gallery with impressive and extensive historical artwork collection. Or you can spend your time in the park. The park has changed with the taste of the times, and in the mid-19th century it was converted into the landscape garden we see today. In the park is also archaeological museum and a cafe pavilion. You can get here by using tramline number 1 that runs frequently. No wonder that historic center of Graz is part of UNESCO World Heritage, as it has amazing, charming streets and squares surrounded by beautiful historical buildings. But the biggest and most important square is this beautiful main square known as the Hauptplatz. It serves as an important hub as it's a crossroad of major streets and a stop for all tram lines in the city. Square is surrounded by beautiful old houses and palaces with shops, restaurants and cafes that spread their tables around. Most prominent among them is the 15th century Lueck house with its arcaded walkway and splendid Baroque facade that houses Swarovski shop. Just open your eyes and you'll see many more impressive historic houses. But the most dominant palace on the square is the 19th century City Hall. In the middle of the square are food stalls as a reminder that in the Middle Ages this used to be a central market, and ever since this square has remained the meeting spot of Graz. In the middle is also a fountain from the 19th century dedicated to the Styrian prince that introduced reforms that greatly benefited the city of Graz and the province of Styria. The fountain is surrounded by 4 female figures symbolizing 4 rivers of Styria. This beautiful and lively square is often used as a venue for different festivals and events. At the time of my visit, artists and kids were creating sculptures from sand. Graz is full of charming old streets and squares, and it also offers many more interesting museums. That is why I would recommend you to buy a Joanneum ticket, as it can save you a lot of money. Besides the entry to the 3 places I showed you, the ticket also offers entry to many other interesting places. You can get a 24-hour ticket for €16 and a 48-hour ticket for €23. You can buy it online or at the ticket office at any of the sites. Unfortunately, most museums in Graz are open only from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and are closed on Mondays. Majority of sites I showed you can be visited on foot, as Graz historic town is very compact. But you can also use public transport around the old town free of charge. Each stop in the free travel zone has an old town tram sticker. If you want to use tram to get to Eggenberg Palace or some other places outside the historic core, don't forget to buy a ticket. Tickets are valid for all bus and tram lines as well as for the Schlossberg funicular. If you want to see why Graz is also known as the capital of the light and city of design, check out my upcoming video in the top corner. You can also check my other Austria videos by clicking on the playlist in the top corner. If you liked this video, please give it thumbs up. You can share your questions, suggestions or experience about Graz in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit notification bell to be notified about my future travel videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.